We are going to talk about the vicious, emotionally abusive cycle that you are in while you're in a relationship with someone who's narcissistic. So maybe you're watching this and you're still in the relationship, or maybe you're watching this and you're already out of it and you just want some understanding of what actually happened. All narcissistic relationships are exactly the same. They are textbook. They all go through a cycle. The cycle looks different from relationship to relationship, but the basis of each phase in that cycle is exactly the same. You're going to have the idealization, you're going to have the devalue, and you're going to have the discard. Now that cycle right there, that could take 20 years to fully go all the way through, but you're always going through these little cycles throughout the course of the relationship. You're always ebbing and flowing. You're on a high, you're on a low. So you're constantly doing this until the discard actually happens. The discard can be completely out of nowhere and it can just come out of the blue. You didn't even see it coming. And maybe not. Maybe there were problems in the relationship and so it was something that was slowly happening, but maybe you just weren't even aware of it. Maybe you never thought in a million years that these problems that you guys were having were that big that it would cause a discard to happen at the end. So today we're going to go over the emotionally abusive cycle and the signs that a discard is on its way. This is where this person is just completely losing interest in you. They're not engaging in the relationship anymore, and you might be making excuses for this person, or maybe you kind of sense that they're starting to pull away, or maybe you just straight think that you're just having problems in the relationship, when in fact, the big problem is this person is on their way out the door. With narcissistic abuse, a lot of the times it's very sudden and it's completely out of the blue. It just catches you off guard. One minute they love you, you're the love of their life, and the next minute they can't stand you and they're criticizing you all the time. Everything you do, every flaw you have, they're picking and trying to just tear you down. The problem with this, and that really hurts a lot of people, and it's something that really hurt my self-esteem, it was definitely part of the gaslighting technique, was that I really started to feel like I was actually the problem. Now, we're not talking about the things that if you're honest with yourself, you can self-reflect and say, yeah, there are some things that I could be doing better in the relationship. I'm talking about picking you apart. That's completely different than just saying, yes, I'm flawed. Yes, I'm not perfect. Yes, I didn't do everything right every single time. Nitpicking and really highlighting like all of those frequent mistakes that you're making and just wanting to find something to even pick at, that's something totally different. And that's what we're talking about. And that's actually the most hurtful thing. Because if you're a fairly healthy person, then you can sit here and you can probably make the laundry list of all the things that you don't always do right in relationships, how you don't always handle the situation the best, how you do want to change and get better. Maybe you're actively working on it. Maybe you don't even know what to do to even work on it because you don't know where the behavior even comes from. But let's put all that to the side. We're talking about just not being a nice person. This is where you get blamed for everything that's going wrong in the relationship. This person is not once raising their hand and saying, you know what, and this is also my part. This is what I'm doing wrong. So this isn't about two people coming together or this person wanting to mutually work on your relationship and own their part and discuss your part and have this like great collaboration where you can actually fix problems. This person is just trying to find all your flaws and pick you apart so they have a reason to actually leave. And they definitely don't want you showcasing any of their flaws or even picking them apart whatsoever, because all you're gonna get is a huge amount of backlash. This isn't about this person wanting to work on themselves whatsoever. It is about you being the problem and them just wanting to make you feel bad for who you are. This isn't about this person working on themselves. This is just about them picking you apart. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to find reason to flee, to jump ship, to leave the relationship because they don't want to work on themselves. Once that starts to happen where this person is picking you apart, now they've basically constructed an image of you in their mind that just seems so completely unattractive. So physical intimacy out the door, romance gone, affection, attention non-existent. They are cold, they are unemotional, they really don't want anything to do with any kind of intimacy whatsoever, even though there was never real true emotional intimacy, because you can't have that with someone who's narcissistic. But maybe you thought that you actually had emotional intimacy. Well, guess what? That's gone. So the sweet little love letters, the text messages, the emails, the flowers, the romantic dates, the caring and being a gentleman or being absolutely amazing to you and being so thoughtful, all of those things are no longer happening. Once this really starts to happen where they've picked you apart, they've created this image of you that now they're no longer even attracted to physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the above. Now they need to go elsewhere. They've already started ignoring you. They've already been very cold, so they don't really want to be around you anymore. And this is where they might start finding someone else to have a relationship with or to get whatever it is that they need, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical from that person. But the main thing to this kind of phase of a discard is really where it is about something else and not about you. So it doesn't always necessarily have to be where there's cheating or betrayal or affairs or any of those types of things. It's just about finding something else that's occupying their time, that's giving them what it is that they need. They're just trying to spend more time away from you so they can be happy now that they're not with you. Because remember, their mind constructed a story that you're the enemy, you're the bad guy. They might all of a sudden want to be working all the time. Now they have a new group of friends. Now they have a hobby. They just have other things that they'd rather be doing than actually being with you and working on the relationship. Because remember, it all goes back to they don't want to work on themselves. They don't want to change anything about them. They just want you to change. And when you're clearly not changing, which isn't always a bad thing, so let's not go there and start blaming ourselves, then they need to find some kind of excitement or something that makes them feel good inside because you're no longer doing it for them. By the way, that's not your responsibility. Every narcissist does not like to be alone. Chances are, if they haven't found a hobby, a new group of friends, or are just diving into work, and that's their excuse that they have, even though it's something that's done unconsciously, they're going to start jumping into another relationship. This is where the flirting starts to happen. So in this area, what I want you to kind of be aware of is the avoiding of spending time together. And if they absolutely have to be with you for whatever reason, maybe you're married, maybe you have kids, we're talking about the connection, the conversation, like it's just non-existent. Maybe they're on their phone more, maybe they're just scrolling on social media more. Now that doesn't mean that you're gonna go home and if your partner's ever scrolling on social media, going through like a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, of just being a little distant, doesn't mean that a discard is coming. You need to incorporate all of these things into the equation to get to a discard. But when you have been discarded, or you have been cheated on, or when you have gone through an affair with an ex-partner, then the next relationship you get into and that person starts like detaching a little bit from you and they're just scrolling on social media, or maybe they are working like really late hours, or they just do seem a little distant, you might start to jump to conclusions because you think this person is just like your last. But remember what I said, all of these things are in the box of a discard is coming. So if your next partner is doing one of these things, but all the rest are perfectly fine, no discard. As this person starts to kind of pick you apart, you're gonna get a lot more gaslighting, a lot more manipulation. You're going to, because what they're trying to do is they're continuously trying to make you feel like you're the problem. So that story is the story that they go off of when they convince themselves that they have a right to jump ship. They want to confuse you. They want to chip away at your self-esteem. And if you take the bait and you believe all of it because you don't have a strong sense of self, then not only are you inevitably going to get a discard, because it's just going to happen regardless of what you do, because when a person has decided that they no longer want to be with you and they're going to discard you, there's nothing that you could ever do to possibly change that. But what we want to avoid is any more possible psychological or emotional damage that you could get from this person. So when you start getting this irritability where someone's snapping at you all the time and picking you apart, if you have a lot of confidence and a strong sense of self, you're not going to stand for that. You're not going to be okay with these mood swings. You're not going to be okay with walking on eggshells because this person is going through something. Like, no, absolutely unacceptable. You're going to hold this person accountable. Because remember, these things is not for you to try to avoid a discard. You literally can't. This is to avoid you being in the gutter when a discard possibly happens or a relationship ends with someone who's really toxic. You always want to work on your sense of self. You should always have a sense of self, regardless of who you're ever in a relationship with. That is your number one priority. It's your responsibility, and it is mental health. And if you do not do it, then you are at the mercy of someone doing it for you. And if you're at the mercy of someone doing it for you, you are going to get abused, you are going to get manipulated, you are going to get taken advantage of. And you're also going to be running the risk of being discarded again and again and again, because you're going to keep attracting the same person again and again and again. The problem that a lot of people have when they're in a discard is they don't know they're in a discard, because they don't know they're dealing with someone who's narcissistic or possibly emotionally abusive. They instead feel the pulling away of this person, but instead of having a really strong sense of self and being very confident and knowing their worth and knowing their standards and their boundaries and confronting the person, what they end up doing is they just keep trying harder. And that is a sign of codependency. Remember what I said, during the course of your entire relationship, no matter how long it lasted, you went through those different phases. You went through idealization, you went to devalue, and then at the very end is where the discard happens. But throughout the course of the relationship, you're going through idealizing, devalue, and you're doing this like ebb and flow. Really, the only way that you could ever prevent a discard is by you leaving the relationship yourself. Because as the idealization happens and the devalue happens and you're going on a high and then you're going a low, that shouldn't be acceptable. That even shouldn't be something that you're attracted to. It shouldn't be the norm or the thing that you just accept in a relationship. And a lot of us do because that's how we're programmed. We're programmed to have low self-esteem, low self-worth, don't know what a healthy relationship should look like and feel like. We don't have very good boundaries. We don't know how to communicate our standards and our boundaries to anyone. And we have a ton of fear. So when all of that is working against us, then we're not going to just immediately leave a relationship, especially when we're being mistreated. We're going to think that on some levels, emotionally, this is acceptable. Maybe logically you understand that it's not, but you're not healthy enough to be able to handle the experience to really stand up for yourself. And so it just continues again and again and again. What you need to accept with narcissistic relationships, emotionally abusive relationships, really toxic ones, is this person has an insane need for validation. And you can't control their insecurity and their needs. And nothing that you will ever be able to do is going to fill that void. That's why you absolutely are not enough for someone who is very wounded, because that wound that they have is their responsibility to fill. And no matter what you do to try to fill it, you're never going to fill it, because no one else can ever fill your own wounds. This person just thrives on constant admiration and attention. They love the excitement. They need variety. They need a person to look at them in a certain way. And if they don't, then they're going to move on, because there's no real emotional intimacy in relationships. If there's no emotional intimacy and no empathy, you can never have a strong connection with another person, which means you don't value that person, because all that person is for you is just another thing that makes you feel good. People are objects. There's no emotional attachment in any way, shape, or form with anyone. And I think we struggle to really understand that or even accept it, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, you can have emotional attachments and you understand what that feels like. So in your mind, you just can't fathom how this person cannot have real attachments to another person. They have attachments based on what a person can give them and how that person makes them feel, not how they feel on their own without anything whatsoever. That's something that you cultivate all on your own. And it is something that you're doing for yourself every single day. How you're doing it, how well you're doing it, how much you feel filled up inside, all of those things vary from person to person. Rather than trying to avoid a discard, what you need to be doing is learning this stuff, practicing self-parenting and practicing how to protect yourself. Because if you're not strong enough to leave the relationship because it's not good for you, then yes, a discard is going to happen. But either way, you're going to have to learn this information. If a discard actually happens, you're going to be in the gutter and you're going to have to start all over again, and you're going to have to learn it then. If you're in the relationship, you're going to have to learn it right now in order to gain the strength to actually leave the relationship. So I hope this video helped you, and I hope it really gave you what you needed in order to either feel really powerful or to help yourself kind of get out of that gutter that you're in right now because you are going through a discard. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. I hope if you are still in the relationship that it's giving you some insight on what is possibly going on, and hopefully giving you the strength to get out of a relationship that is not good for you. If you are in the gutter because you just went through a discard, I know what it feels like. Believe me, I know what it feels like, and you will absolutely get through this. Just keep watching these videos, invest in yourself, do the work, because you're going to be even stronger, healthier, and wiser, and get everything that you actually wanted that you were never going to be able to get from this person in your future. Don't also forget to register for my masterclass that is starting November 1st. It is all about healing and rebuilding. All the information is linked down below. Please take care, and I wish you well.